All right, here we fucking go. Now, hello and welcome to our weekly podcast adventure known as the Fleeting Thoughts podcast with me and you.
You being Channing, which is me.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey there, Channing. How the fuck are you?
Pretty good. Just another day. Just worked. It's raining outside. It's all sad and depressing.
Yeah.
People suck at driving in the rain, even though this is Oregon, and this happens like 60% of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like the moment precipitation is the word I'm looking for. It falls from the sky. People lose all track of how to fucking drive. It's really annoying.
Did you get into any accidents or anything?
No, I just mean people are driving, really slow, which you want to drive slower when it's wet outside because you don't have quite the stopping power, but you don't need to go 15 miles under the speed limit. And I don't know. It's just, people just suck.
Or they
Driving
drive,
in general
or they drive
sucks,
too fast or something because they're in a big truck and then it fucking sprays water everywhere and then I don't know. People are crazy. Yeah, it's weird how the rain comes and everybody for a couple weeks kind of everything changes and it's all obvious and we're all like, oh my god, it's raining now and everything's different in the weather and then about 2 weeks from now it'll be super cold and everyone will be kind of used to the rain, but then it'll be snow and ice and then
the snow makes sense to me because it doesn't really snow that much in this area, so I even get a little weary when snow starts falling. I don't enjoy driving in it. It's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
But then you talk to people from Montana, and they're like, "Oh, this is nothing. It's fucking 4 times as bad where I come from." This is Oregon, though. This is just supposed to rain here. I don't know why.
Well, it's
where's the snow coming from?
I mean,
we're in the valley.
We get snow twice a year.
Yeah.
A couple weeks apart, and our city doesn't know how to deal with large amounts of snow, so there's no there's no one on the roads cleaning anything up or preventing ice from forming, and so essentially we're all just kind of on our own for a few days, and then it's over, and then we're all just have stories to tell about our snow adventures and shit.
The powdery white death.
I think last year kind of cured me of most of my fear because I had to drive to work 5 days in it, and I kind of learned how to deal with it. I didn't have to go up any major hills or deal with a ton of traffic, and it wasn't that long of a drive, but I trudged through the fucking half a foot of snow every day for a few days, and
I got lucky. I got to walk. This is the first year where when it snows, I'm going to have to drive across town, so...
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I always get new windshield wipers for the rainy season, and that helps a lot. I think people don't realize how those get worn down, and they makes it harder to see.
It's something you don't think about, I feel until you turn them on, and instead of wiping the water away, it's just smearing it all over your windshield, and you can't see.
Yeah, it's just another distraction in the way.
And you're just like, damn it, now I got to go to the store, otherwise I'm going to fucking die because I can't see.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, tires wear down and they don't grip so well, so.
It's true.
Be safe out there. Gotta be safe and deal with the weather.
Or don't. Just participate in population control and turn your vehicle into a weapon.
Participate, like The Purge, where...
I just watched the second one again recently.
I haven't seen the second one.
Second one's pretty good. It's not like a home invasion horror film like the first one was.
Yeah.
It's almost more of an action film, like a thriller this time around.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot better than the first. I didn't like the first one that much. I thought it was it has a kind of a cool concept, but doesn't really deliver on it that well. But the second one's a lot better, I thought.
Yeah, I had a hard time watching the first one because I was there at a midnight event with 400 pajama-wearing either high schoolers or early college students, and they just made noise the entire time, and it's a horror movie, so it's all quiet, and they're just sitting there giggling to each other and shit, and it ruined the whole thing for me.
I've been to a few movies like that. That's why I don't really like to go to movies on their opening night. I'd rather just wait a day or two for all the idiots to go first that are going to ruin it for me, and then go later on.
Yeah, I think horror movies in general have a specific audience, which is typically like high school and early college students. Like they're just like, ooh, let's go watch a scary movie with a girl so she'll like, like hold my hand and be scared and I can take advantage of that situation. Or, you know what I mean? Like that's the whole thing is like take a girl to a horror movie and shit. I don't
You know what's the cure
annoying.
for your fear? My dick.
Yeah. You know what'll make you feel better? Get closer. The cure for your fear is my dick. That is a terrible bumper sticker option.
I want to start a pickup line book now. That's going to be my first one. That's what got me into pickup lines.
Pickup line, yeah.
One I just made up on the spot.
Retarded pickup lines that work on retarded people.
I have all these last-ditch effort plans for if my writing career just never goes anywhere. Which first was I'll just write a vampire romance novel. That fucking seems to work.
Yeah.
But now maybe I'll dabble in some terrible pickup line books as well.
Yeah,
I'll find something eventually.
Terrible pickup lines. I think there's a big market for those in the world. I'm sure you'll sell a lot of copies. Okay. Marty. God, I just watched the season finale of the first season of Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna go through and watch them all again. But that show's so fucking good.
It's so good. I'm glad you like it. I fucking love that show.
Yeah, and they started using the word shit in the episodes because I don't know who originally airs it, so they can it's a Cartoon
Adult
Network.
Swim.
It's Adult Swim. And so I didn't know. I don't know what they can get away with on there, but this show is very adult.
He says motherfucker a couple times,
but they bleep it.
Oh, dude,
he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't fully pull it off.
The Blu-ray I have doesn't. It's all uncensored.
Oh, see, in the one that I have, it'll like put in a sound, like somebody like doing a blender or something right at the end of the word. But yeah, that show's great. I was watching that today. It's just a fun show to watch. Like you're just like, ooh, what's gonna happen? Ooh, that's crazy. But anyway. So let's talk about our first set of words. Our lexicon.
The first word of the set.
Let's our first word in the set of words. And our first set of word to talk about. What is our first word?
We'll start with fard.
Fard.
Fard. F-A-R-D, not T. A lot of misconceptions, I'm sure.
These kids these days, they just can't. They can't pull it together to use the word fard correctly.
Fard is very relevant. I use it on my day-to-day basis ever since I discovered it a week ago. But it just means to paint your face with cosmetics. So I've been using that on my wife a lot in the morning, who, per a normal woman's routine, I imagine, puts makeup on in the morning. Mm-hmm. So now my new thing is if I'm stepping out of the shower or I come into the bathroom to start getting ready myself, I get to walk in and be like, oh, hey, see, you're farting it up this morning. And she just hates it.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's a terrible sounding word, and it's got a very juvenile humor to it. I giggle every time I say it. I think it's the funniest fucking thing in the world.
Yeah. It definitely reminds me of shard.
Yeah.
Because you have what is shard? Or that's a shart.
Shart.
To shart is a shit and a fart, and a shard is a, I don't know, a pokey.
Maybe that's to paint your face with poo. If you're sharding.
Yeah, to paint your face with poo. I think that sounds accurate. That's probably a word.
That's a made up.
Yeah,
that's our first made up word for this
shit
podcast.
And fard.
Shard.
Yeah, fard. I don't think girls are interested in being called that, but I guess they just say putting on makeup. They don't have a word for that.
Well, that word is fard.
That word is fard.
And I understand why they don't want to use it. It sounds relatively close to a word that people tend to find pretty funny. Yeah. It's just basically, I just want to say, any male listeners, you should just do that. You should next time your wife's or girlfriend or significant other, or if you have a homosexual guy who puts on makeup that you happen to,
he doesn't have to be homosexual. It could just be a guy,
or
maybe
just an effeminate man.
Theatrically,
anytime somebody's putting on makeup, just be like, "Good to see that you're farting today."
Mm-hmm. Man, you are a top-notch farter. Your fard has. Your fard skills. I got the fard in me. I want to be a fardster.
I want to be a professional fartist.
Fartist? Yeah. I think some stand-up has I think it's Brian Posehn, his stand-up special was called the Fartist. to make fun of the movie The Artist.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, it was pretty special.
It was a stand-up special.
It reminds me of the Swedish Chef because he goes, "Björdy birdie bird," and I could see him saying "Fjördy fjörd, firdie fjörd." Anyway, that's not that funny. And then the second word is a word that I heard Sam Harris use in his, and I've heard before. He was talking to Joe Rogan about his new book, and then they started talking about free will, and he used the word automaticity, which I just think is an interesting word, and it's rarely used by most people, and it essentially is just synonymous with the word automatic, where things become habitual to the point where you're not thinking about it. It's just automatic. You just do it. So it's a behavioral kind of a word, where like if you do something over and over and over again, it just becomes automatic. It's not necessarily like breathing is completely unconscious and it's automatic, but it's not learned behavior. It's just something you do instinctually and you have to do to survive. Whereas something that has automaticity would be something that you kind of, it became automatic after time or something like that. That's how I
so it seems
it's
like a low level amount of detail required. It's just an automatic response pattern or habit.
Yeah.
Resulting from learning, repetition, and practice. So
yeah,
it's almost like conditioning, like you do with like Pavlov's dogs experiment kind of a thing.
It's like when you learn to drive. At first, it's like all these different things you have to remember to do, and then eventually it just becomes automatic, and you just do it without thinking because you have muscle memory and memory that just takes over. So I thought that was a cool word. Cold word.
It sounds really cool too. It sounds
automaticity.
Almost like a some kind of robot or cyborg. I don't know why. It's automaticity.
Maybe it's the automatic city
of the
future, where everything's robotic and cold-hearted. Boom. Words done, defined, examined.
Examined.
Examined is when you examine a salmon. Examined. We're going salmon fishing. Sorry. I don't know.
You've had the whole day off. You've been sitting in your house and just thinking about all of this.
Yeah, I've had the whole day off, and I'm still not awake, and I just drank a big old coffee, and I just feel like taking a nap.
You're all jittery, just shaking, and
no, I'm the opposite. It didn't do anything. It just made
like
me
you got to
tired.
get up and get the blood.
Yeah, I think I didn't do anything much. I did some laundry and took a shower, and then got food, and that's about all.
And you're playing a sweet new game when
maybe
I come over.
Maybe I'm in a bad mood because I just spent like $600 on bills, and I'm just like, all my money is gone.
I gotta do that too.
I paid rent, and then I paid my credit card bill, and on my credit card I paid my, what the fuck I'm talking about, and
a lot of us got credit card debt,
and then I'm just like, well, now I can't go anywhere. I gotta like just live through the next 2 weeks without any money, and I don't have any savings, and I'm probably gonna die. So that's like my whole day.
Well, Joe, you can't take it with you if you died.
I know, right? I should just go into way more debt and buy a lot of things that other people can have when I die.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, I'll just write
Put
in
me
blood.
In your will.
Yeah, I'm gonna write my will in blood on my wall. Wait, I'm not gonna kill myself. That's not what you're talking about, right? Okay, but you're just I will die.
Well, clearly you thought if you're gonna write your will on blood on the wall, that you plan to at least bleed yourself a little bit enough to have some ink. That'd be really. Could you imagine being the police officer who has to investigate? Like, let's say you killed yourself, but then you wrote your will on your wall, and the police come because there's a terrible stench, and your neighbor calls it in or whatever, however that happens. And then being that police officer that comes in and it's just like, what the? His fucking will is right here on the wall, fucking scribbled around. Well, and he's a dick police officer, so he fucking starts changing things.
Well, it'd be hard to because it's in DNA. And you'd easily be able to prove that it was my blood, but you wouldn't be able to prove that I was the one that wrote it, because it could easily be my killer who staged suicide, and then used my blood to kill, or to write a
just be
will, and then
creating
it just happens to say that everything goes to like that person. Like, oh, that was not very tricky.
Well, and that person would be like their number one suspect. That's
Yeah,
all,
obviously.
All of Joe's stuff went to Channing.
Yeah, weird. Well, that wouldn't.
I'll
be
bring
that
this
weird.
fucker in for questioning because he got a lot to gain from this guy dying.
Yeah, weird
Whole
how
apartment
it's
of
not
stuff.
in Joe's handwriting. It's actually legible, so this can't be right.
Now
No,
Parkinson's here.
when have you written a will? Are you going to do that?
No,
you know,
I haven't,
That's an
but-
important like life thing.
No, I know it is, but I'm married, so if you don't have a will, don't they just give all that shit? To
I don't know. I would assume all of it would go to your wife.
Yeah, like 'cause
unless you guys had some weird like agreement in your thing that said
No
it goes to
prenups.
like kids or something.
we
but,
got married with nothing,
Yeah,
so there was
so you'll have nothing.
hills have nothing.
We still have nothing, so I'm not worried about it. Yeah, and prenups can be overturned by judges anyway, so it's
And
kind of
you're
a weird
dead,
thing.
so you can't defend your prenup.
Well,
you're
prenups
gone.
don't really involve death. I think that's a will. Prenups have to do with
yeah, I guess that's true.
divorces or separations. But yeah, I don't know. I all of my stuff would just go to my mom. Like right now, I have no one else that I would.
Did you actually
give
write
it
a
to.
will for that?
No.
Or, oh,
I'm just saying, like that's who I would want it to go to. Like, and if anybody listens to this, after
This is your will.
this date, I'm.
what's today's? Oh, 10/30/2014.
Yeah, so as of the day before Halloween, I want my stuff to just go to my mom so she can, because she's not, I don't have anything, so she'll just have a new TV and shit. That'll be nice for her.
Maybe you can just keep updating your will through this podcast. So
I
mean,
will.
If you and your mom have a falling out,
This will be my living will.
A year,
Will just
yeah.
be every couple. I'll just name a new person. in
now
it.
we got to change the name of the podcast from Fleeting Thoughts to Joe's Living Will.
Joe's living will and other comments on life. That sounds good. Yeah, I don't know. When I have something important, I do have like a life insurance policy through work, and she's
you
the
do too.
benefactor of that. So if I die, she gets like a couple $1,000s. I think it's like $5,000 or something, just to pay for my funeral.
Life
No.
insurance is funny. It's like putting a price tag on your life in a way. You're like, well, if I die, this person's going to get X amount of
Yeah.
dollars. So
well,
I'm
yeah.
worth that much, apparently.
It's. I think it's designed to pay all the bills that you are required to pay, because you're technically, even when you die, you're supposed to pay off your bills through your assets, and so that will pay for anything so that no one else has to pay for it, and then it makes it so that it covers all your funeral costs, and then if you're wealthy, then they get the excess, life insurance policy stuff. So, I guess people depend on other people, so it is banking on your. It's the only way. It's the bank saying, I bet you're gonna die, and you're like, I don't think so. I'm gonna pay you until I prove you wrong, and then the bank's like, yeah, you died, ha ha ha, and now we give out your money, but in the meantime they've made interest. They've made interest on your payments. They've made money on you giving them money for 50 years.
Smart plan, seems like.
Insurance is the geniusest? That's a word.
Making up all kinds of words today.
The most genius business.
Insurance in general is because
very smart.
It's just getting into people. You're just getting your claws under their skin and being like, well, if this happens, you're going to need something to cover you.
Yeah, I think insurance makes a lot of sense for the most part. It's just a matter of being smart about which insurances you decide to pay for. Because a lot of people will get you to get insurance on anything, and you may end up paying out more than you need to recover that loss, like for stuff. And
I actually recently purchased meteor insurance in case a meteor hits
what?
my house.
That's like what, 50 cents a month or something, right?
Yeah,
it can't be very
it's
much, because
pretty-
that's the odds of that are
pretty
so
cheap.
low.
And I totally just made that up. I mean, meteor.
You didn't actually do that?
insurance, No.
Yeah, I was getting excited.
You were getting excited,
liar.
like,
You
where
fucking
did-
liar.
Where did you get meteor insurance?
Yeah, I was gonna
Give
ask,
me their
like-
number. I want
Yeah.
that contact information.
Yeah, I've been looking into that.
I mean, it's been a while since a meteor hit Earth. It's bound to come up any time, just through sheer chance.
No,
I don't know.
it's
Fuck
not-
it. Whatever.
Not really. I think most, the odds of that are pretty low.
It reminds me of have you ever seen or read The World According to Garp?
Sounds familiar, but no.
There's a Robin Williams movie based off a John Irving novel, but he, in the movie, the house that they go to buy, as they're looking at the house, a fucking plane smashes into it, and the realtor just assumes that they aren't going to want the house anymore because there's a plane in it, and they got this whole mess to clean up. But he just decides to take the house because he's like, this tragic event just happened. That means the probability of another tragic event happening must be pretty astronomical because it just had a super shitty thing happen to it. So it's just an interesting thought process. It's like a karma. Like the really bad things happen, so now your karma's reset.
Pretty dumb look at probability, because the probability of that happening was a certain amount. It doesn't change because it happened. The probability is
logic.
Still...
He was just using
one in whatever.
An ethereal like sense.
Yeah, I think it's probably more like you're just very like enamored with the event, and so you want to kind of be able to talk about it. You know, it's like a part of your life now if you own a house that was just attacked by a stray airplane.
Attacked by a plane. That the plane took on its own consciousness. I was like, fuck that house. I'm going to destroy that.
You don't know. Maybe planes are vindictive. They hate houses. They look at them all day. They're like, oh, that beautiful house.
You just stay in one place on the ground. God. I got to fucking fly around.
The people in you are not miserable. Yeah, planes attack. It's a pretty scary situation.
You should make a horror film called Planes Attack. It'll be like a
that
remake
would be horrible.
The Birds movie from the 50s, but it's planes.
It's all commercial jetliners. That's a pretty terrifying thought. But that would explain 9/11 a lot better. It wasn't terrorists. It was evil, conscious planes.
And all like the Middle Easterns are like, why are you guys blaming us for this?
Yeah.
We had nothing to do with that.
Planes are evil. Yeah, I don't know how to do a Middle Eastern accent, so
I don't really know either. That's why
I
just talked in normal white guy voice.
Yeah.
He was the guy was doing an impression of he looks Middle Eastern, but he was born and raised in America.
Yeah.
But he still gets grouped in with everybody else.
Yeah.
But that's why he's talking like a normal guy. Because Americans are normal and everybody else is fucking weird. So.
Yeah, they're all the outliers.
You're just using that word because of work. I know you are.
No, actually, Outliers was a really good book by Malcolm Gladwell. And I know it from other situations. I think that they use it in a weird way at work. So whatever. It's a statistical term. But a really good book by Malcolm Gladwell where he talks about those people on the ends of the bell curve that are either like they're like way good, they're like the best at something, or the worst at something. He usually just talks about like human excellence and stuff like that. Have you ever read any Malcolm Gladwell?
I have not. I've never.
He's got really good books. They're nonfiction though.
Till now.
He's
Do you say they're not efficient?
They're nonfiction.
Oh, nonfiction. I thought you said they're not efficient. I'm like, why are you reading them?
They're just so wordy. They're just very non-efficient books. They don't even like move. They just sit there on the shelf. But no, I read 2 of his books, Blink and Outliers, I think. Yeah, Outliers was about people who are really good at things, and then Blink was about how we make decisions unconsciously in a split second, like how we judge people really quick, or how we can tell if something's a little off. Like he used an example of a person looking at a piece of art that was appraised and evaluated as being like thousands of years old, or like 1,500 years old or something. And this one guy who's been an art curator for like 20 years just instantly looks at this painting that's already been approved by a bunch of other curators as being legitimate, and he looks at it and immediately knows that it's a fraud. And he doesn't know why. He just like notices one little inconsistency that he can't put his finger on, and then he does more research and he finds out that it is a fraud. But it's all a book all about how people make split decisions. He does another example about how cops have like moments to decide whether or not a threat is going to escalate to violence, and so they have to make decisions in a blink of an eye to whether or not they're going to pull their gun or shoot at somebody or whatever. And it just kind of happens. It's like part of automaticity, actually.
Well, kind of like instincts too, I guess.
Well, that's what we call instinct. Instinct is just the subconscious reaction to things, in our environment. It's just we didn't do it. It's just our bodies did it without our knowledge. You know what I mean? Like that's what we call instinct. Instinct is just another word for automatic responses, right? I mean, ultimately,
the way you explained it makes them seem as though they are one and the same.
Yeah, it's just we usually term everything almost an animal does is instinct because we don't give them conscious responsibility. We don't go, man, that dog really thought about that for a while and then decided to do something. Just instinctual. And people do the same stuff, so. We're always chasing cars and begging for food.
I fucking hate the mailman, so.
Yeah, right? Because he's not a lady.
Shows up and gives me news.
I threw away literally everything I got in the mail today. Like, it's like a couple bills that I don't need. Like, I know I owe money. It's not a big deal. And I don't need to know the amounts. I don't use their little bill forms.
I just pay a general amount to
I just pay whatever I owe, and the internet tells me, their website or their phone. I call them.
I know we just moved a couple months ago, and that's the best part of moving. Is I just went to each of the important places that I like bills and change my address with them, so I would get my bill and not run the risk of losing utilities or something. But now I'm not getting any credit card offers and like all this random garbage.
Eventually,
I got a Discover thing in the mail yesterday. I was like, I literally, as I opened the mail box and saw it, I was like, damn it, they found me.
Yeah.
Like, son of a bitch.
I know, it's like these... Dude, you want to know something really freaky when it comes to, like, robots or like people finding you or, like, just weird things that are going on in the world that you didn't know about? Twice in the last week, I wrote things on Twitter, and one was just a funny statement about how I'm, like, always, like, sitting down to go pee now so I can play my games on my phone, right? I'm sure lots of people are doing this now. I'm sure I'm not the only one. But like if I'm not in a hurry, like I literally like at home, I'll just go sit and go pee so I can play on my thing. I just end up sitting there for a little while playing like Clash of Clans. So I tweeted about that, and I didn't write like a hashtag or an @ or anything that would like link it to anything else. I just wrote, Clash of Clans, I'm playing it. And literally within 5 seconds, it was retweeted by a Clash of Clans news bot, right? This bot just goes through all of Twitter and finds anyone who says Clash of Clans and repeats it or reads it and then it repeats it or something. Like, it had to be a bot because I didn't link it to anything, and it just found me and then retweeted. We tweeted. What? How do you say that? Retweeted.
There you go. You got it.
Which is how who's that guy who the Wascally Rabbit guy?
No, that wasn't that Tweety, the bird that Sylvester was always trying to eat, right?
Yeah, that was Tweety Bird.
Okay.
But
that's what you're sounding like.
Whatever. But who's the guy?
Elmer Fudd.
Elmer Fudd. Yeah, we tweets all the time when he's. Anyway,
sending over his head.
When he's in over his head with the Bugs Bunny, we tweets. But anyway, so that just showed up out of nowhere. So there's bots out there just like finding you, and then a couple minutes later, the next day or something, I
get your timeline straight.
I tweeted the question. Does anyone, what is the definition of a hippie? Because, people use the word all the time, but, what the fuck is a hippie? And then some bot found that I asked that question and had a picture of, it was dictionary.com or something, had a picture of their definition of hippie, and they just posted that as a retweet to answer my question. So then I wrote another tweet that was, what are internet bots? And I was hoping an internet bot would find it and define itself, and it would be awfully ironic. But it didn't happen, so I don't know if that's just not
just
a common
create a paradox
term.
with that tweet.
Yeah, I thought it would create a paradox.
Destroys Twitter as a whole.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this will be the coolest thing if I get a bot to retweet what is an internet bot. And so I just didn't know. I didn't know Twitter had that. They can just randomly find your shit and repost it or favorite it or whatever. It's just really weird.
I'm sure. I don't use Twitter a ton. I look at it all the time because I follow so many things, and it's just like a good way to get little news bits here and there, but I don't ever tweet that much. I never have anything like fun to tweet.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll have.
Like every once in a while I'll think of something stupid, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'm the same way with Facebook. I look on there a couple times a day, but I rarely really put anything on there unless I'm plugging my own writing career or something.
Your own podcast.
Or my own podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Least I can do.
But anyway, let's talk about Halloween. What are you doing for Halloween? It's tomorrow.
I'm working, so that'll be fun. I don't have any plans after work either. I'm probably just gonna go home and go home.
Do normal things. Watch TV.
I actually kept forgetting that Halloween was this week.
Yeah.
I even was forgetting today, and then I was at the bank, and they have all their Halloween decorations up, and it reminds me every time I go in there. I'm like, oh, that's right, fucking Halloween in a couple days.
Yeah. Everyone's got their orange pumpkins and their spider webs everywhere, and
orange and black everywhere.
I don't get it.
You don't get it?
I don't get it. I don't get Halloween, so whatever. Yeah, I don't really have any plans either. I'm gonna visit on my day off with my mom tomorrow, and then get a haircut at the mall, and then I don't have any plans. Maybe go to a party just to go hang out with people, but I'm not gonna dress up because I didn't plan on it, and I don't have any costumes, and I have never dressed up, so it'd be weird to do it now.
I haven't dressed up since I think my freshman year of high school was the last year I dressed up at all and like actually went trick or treating. And then after that, I was pretty much done with it.
Hello. Getting a phone call in the middle of the podcast. How dare you?
I know. I always silence it, and of course, the one time I don't. There we go. Taken care of.
I feel like Halloween is for children, and I guess that's fine. I don't really care. They just, they dress up, they go run around. It's like a little tradition. It's not a Christian tradition, supposedly, so I guess that's nice. It's one of the only ones that Christianity hasn't taken over completely. But then I think there's a split. I think, right at the beginning of high school, you get to the point where you're too old, and you're just like, this is silly. I'm trying to be an adult now. I don't want to dress up and do kid stuff. And then you have the people who either never stop dressing up, but they stopped trick-or-treating because you can't fucking trick-or-treat when you're a group of 20-year-olds or 17-year-old
you're
men.
supposed to buy your own candy.
You better not. That's a gang at that point. Just because you're dressed up silly, it doesn't make you. It just makes you a creepy gang. And then after you turn 18, 19, a lot of people, then Halloween is just an excuse to party and to drink, and then you have people just their whole lives. Halloween is just this most exciting event. It's just it's like they get to do all this shit. They get to decorate and find a costume and think about it and talk about it and do all this social shit, and so then it's a different type of Halloween that kids do. It's the adult, we just get shit-faced wearing weird clothing kind of situation, and it's an excuse to drink. And then, so those are the two different things. You essentially have, kid version Halloween, and then you have adult Halloween. I think the League had a whole episode about it.
They did.
Where they were like, we're going to just join the two, and we're gonna go trick-or-treating, and then have beer and just drink it while we're trick-or-treating with the kids. And I don't know. I think it's just most holidays, just an excuse to do social things, and a lot of times people use it to drink, as a celebration, to drink more than they normally do, because I find that people just drink all the time anyway.
I feel like if you drink a lot during the holidays, you probably just drink on a somewhat probably regular basis throughout the rest of the year.
You don't need an excuse to go get drunk. I mean, people do it all the time anyway.
Did you do a lot of trick-or-treating when you were a kid at all?
No.
Or? Really?
No, we didn't celebrate Halloween. We celebrated it twice that I can remember when I was a kid, because we were very fundamentalist Christian when I was growing up, and so the Halloween was the devil. That was the devil's holiday, and it was evil and worldly, and so we didn't celebrate it until maybe I was like 12 or something, and then I think I had a Wolverine costume, and we went to the school, and they had like this like Halloween event at the school where you could go to different booths and stuff like that, and that was like the only time. Like I didn't go trick-or-treating. I've never been trick-or-treating, which I'm fine with. I don't have any desire to go door to door requesting candy from people and dealing with strangers and all that shit. I don't care about any of that. Personally, like it's not like exciting to me to think about. And then I got into like junior high, high school, and I just didn't do it. Like there wasn't, every once in a while we'd have like parties in high school, and that was just to drink. It wasn't people dressed up, but who cares, And as somebody who never dresses up, I always get like, oh, what are you dressed as? Or why didn't you dress up? And I'm just like, I'm normal guy. Or, I'm a high school student. Like, that's my dress up. It's like, no, I'm just don't want to.
I was the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I trick-or-treated every year as a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, after my freshman year of high school, like I just didn't care anymore. I didn't even really want to go my freshman year. I just had friends that really wanted to go, and I was like, fuck it, I'll throw some paint on my face and we can walk around.
Yeah.
And even then too, I remember that like people were kind of looking at us weird because we were all like 14.
Yeah.
Asking for candy. Like you're right at the cusp of it being just weird that you're asking people for
more
candy.
Like kind of intimidating to have like full grown, like 15-year-olds running around. Like I'm more concerned than anything. I'm more like, what do they want? Are they going to steal stuff? They're probably going to break things and ruin people's decorations and shit. But
probably that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't. That was it. I don't know. I've never been I don't like holidays in general, really. Like,
yeah,
I just don't care at all. It's funny. I feel like it makes sense for you to not enjoy like Halloween because you never really celebrated to begin with. But it's weird to have celebrated it, and then I still am just like, meh.
But there's nothing to it. It's not like what do people get out of it? It's a social thing. It's just, people, they hang out, they can talk about it. It's something they can share, but it's not very deep. It's not very, you don't connect over Halloween. You know what I mean? Like unless you contrive some crazy situation where you actually do scare yourselves into bonding, but that's weird. Like I don't really get it. I don't know. And I don't think anything is particularly scary about Halloween. I think it's,
I feel like at one point it probably was like kind of scary. Like people wore like legitimately somewhat terrifying costumes, but now it's like just a bunch of little princesses and Ninja Turtles running around or whatever.
Or just the latest pop culture reference, like I'm Lady Gaga or some bullshit. It's nothing to do with the dead because they dress up as people. I don't really get it. I don't know what the whole point of it is. It's just excuses to do childish things and drink and do silly
it started out I think as like a way, is like a remembrance kind of thing to respect the dead or pay tribute or whatever, and then you would dress up in costumes, but now I feel like if you ask what's Halloween about, getting fucking candy.
It's candy,
yeah. Like,
but
it's just, and that same goes for like Thanksgiving and Christmas. I feel like at one point Thanksgiving was about being thankful for the things you have and spending time with your family. Yeah. Now it's just a fucking free meal ticket, I guess, for a lot of people. And
it's just
Christmas is just presents, not anything else. That's all. Kids are just like,
presents. Christmas is about buying stuff and giving stuff, and I don't know.
People ruined holidays themselves over time.
Well,
took the message and they flushed it down the toilet.
I don't think any of the messages were any good. Like I don't think
Probably
they
not.
were like I think when everyone believed that ghosts were real, then maybe when because Halloween is around the end of the year and when there's no there's a lot less light and so things are darker, things are probably more dangerous, and it's a generally scarier time of year when you don't have electricity. And
the weather sucks outside.
Yeah, and the weather's terrible and all that. So I can see why people kind of were like, hey, let's get an excuse to kind of huddle together and do things together and as a community. And, the kids can get together and do these things. And it all gets co-opted by companies who want to sell things like kids' costumes and candy, and then it just becomes a massive market campaign, And I don't know why parents do it. I don't really. I think they do it because they did it when they were younger.
Yeah,
and they're just like,
tradition.
ooh, I want to pass on the traditions, and it's like, but that's terrible. Like traditions
People
are terrible.
are very traditional oriented. I feel like a lot of times, like they always
that's all they do.
Same things that.
It's like the
break
least
the cycle.
Yeah, the least creative things you can do is just do what your parents did. Like, why don't you try to be fucking different and smarter and do things that make sense instead of just because other people did them? But whatever.
Yeah, but then you're considered weird in society.
Yeah.
And your kids are getting bullied at school because
That's
they
true.
didn't go Halloween trick-or-treating.
Right. There's a lot of social pressure to conform, for sure. I mean, that's why people do it. Because if they don't, then they're ostracized and they have no friends and then they die. Well, they don't die, but, in our, recent past, if you didn't go along with the community, then nobody shared food with you when you needed it and helped you when you needed it, and or they kicked you out of town and you could die. So you kind of had to conform to whatever was going on. Now you can be in the non-conformist groups that become conformist groups, like the goths and the hipsters and the hippies and just every group that was disenfranchised becomes franchised out eventually, and because there's enough people in it. And so
that reminds me of like nerds. That's like a popular thing now.
Yeah, it's cool to be nerdy now.
Yeah,
and that's fine. Like it's never not been cool, but it's not a real trait. Like that's
I just
just
feel like
in
like the 80s, especially if you watch films, or like my mom would like tell me about her like being in high school and stuff, and how like the terrible things that they would do to like the nerdy kids. And then I'm like, well, shit, if you do that kind of stuff now, you're just like a normal person. Like nobody would even bat an eye at you, really.
I think being smart is still looked down on, but I think being into pointless pop culture things like Star Wars and video games is not looked down on because everyone does it. But I think being smart is still looked down on, and those people are they're not necessarily considered nerdy. You know what I mean? Like, nerdy used to be like the kid who had glasses and studied computer programming or studied math. That was the nerd. But now the nerd is somebody who's just really into World of Warcraft. You know what I mean? It's not the same, I don't think, nowadays. Maybe
I feel like it's like divided into like all these little categories now.
Yeah.
Like nerd is like this overarch.
Or if you happen to know about Battlestar Galactica, you're a nerd or something. Like, that's it's all just a bunch of bullshit. Like, really, I mean, people just like what they like, and it doesn't matter that much when it comes to pop culture stuff. But I think that, smart kids still get made fun of at school. Smart kids still are differentiated between, because jocks still are intimidated by smart kids and want to and have, emotional problems, so they fucking, still, I'm sure kids are still being bullied for for being into math and being into chess and being into those kind of things because they're not cool or whatever, or because kids have problems with it or whatever, or they're jealous, or their parents wish they were smarter or something. I don't know. But
Labels.
Yeah, it's weird.
Everything has to have a label on it.
Yeah, you have to categorize everything.
Every person, everything just has something slapped onto it.
Yeah.
Just to
Then there's the whole everyone's special, everyone gets an award, everyone should succeed, everyone, is the same, which is not true, right? Like, there are people who are dumb, and there are people who are smart, and there are people in between. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really accurate to be like, there's a lot of really smart people out there, and there's a lot of really fucking dumb people out there, and we're not allowed to really point that kind of shit out to their face because they use violence usually more, and but smart people use violence as well, so it's just weird. I don't know how we got talking about this for Halloween, but
I don't either. It evolved into traditions and then just went off rails from there.
Yeah, well, traditions, I think, is the only tradition we should have is the tradition of questioning our beliefs and our knowledge, and we should always question and learn more. We should be throwing shit away all the time. We should be throwing dumb shit away, like dumb thoughts, dumb ideas, dumb traditions, things that are not beneficial to humanity or whatever. Things that waste time and money. Because it's smart. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, and obviously a lot of people don't want that to happen. But, we have lots of traditions that are just crazy. Almost all traditions are just cultural fucking remnants that people just want to continue so that they don't have to actually, question things and think outside the box, and so they can just be part of the herd or whatever.
Some people just like being part of the herd, Joe. Not everybody's like you.
Yeah, I actually wrote a diagram the other day, because I right before I went to bed, about how in a given population you're going to have a small group of people, very small proportion, 1% of people who are nonconformists, who think outside the box, who don't want to do what everybody wants to do, and who tend to have a higher intelligence than other people. It might be that they don't conform, that we call them, intelligent. That's I don't know which one comes first, but so I wrote this. I drew this little diagram of okay, so you have this one person, and then that one person, if they're influential, they invent something very important, or they come up with an idea that's very or useful, something that people can get behind, like a philosophy or a religion or something, and then that one nonconformist changes the bigger population, right? And then out of that new population, everyone starts to conform to the new way of doing things, and then a few select people don't conform, and then they come up with these new ideas that change the world radically. And so it's we have to have just this big population of people to get enough genetic variability so that we end up with really smart, non-conforming people to revolutionize the culture at large. Because people don't change things. The majority of people are conformists. They're not going to change anything. They're just going to live their life normally, like how everybody else does. And then you have those people who step outside of all of that, but they tend to be the ones who make a difference. And everybody wants to make a difference, but they're not going to, because they're fucking conformists, because not everybody can make differences, or else we might actually all be smart and doing things independently as opposed to conforming to the rest of the group. And then the smart person has kids, and so their smart genes get passed down to other non-conformist smart people, hopefully, and so that's how it kind of gets propagated throughout time, is people, you kind of always are going to, even in a massive conformist, society, there's going to be a couple people who step outside of that, and they may get murdered by the people in power, or they might get out and make a difference. And that's what a lot of stories are about.
I was just about to bring that up.
Snowpiercer, it's the one person who's I don't accept this fucking norm. I don't accept this, tradition, and I'm going to fight against it in some way. And it could be violently, or it could be through ideas or whatever.
Well, I think that the idea of going against everything, everybody likes that. Everybody likes the feeling that they get of the idea of being able to change the world or step out and make a difference. But then I think it kind of boils down to having the will to actually break the cycle that you are currently in order to achieve whatever goal that you want to do or change that you want to make. But then that makes people afraid, because if you follow, if you just work your 9-to-5 job every day, you've got that guaranteed job, that guaranteed check, that guaranteed home, all that stuff. But I mean, if you wanted to step out and make a big difference and do something else completely, that would probably require that you maybe leave that job or whatever. And so it's the idea of it sounds amazing, because if it worked out, that'd be awesome. But if it doesn't, then you are just back to square one. You're screwed. You're out of a job. And so I feel like that's how that kind of happens, is that there are people who just have that will, or maybe they don't even really have that much going for them, and they have a really good idea, so they just fucking do it.
I think it's an interesting phenomenon, and it's definitely something I admire, even if it's. Obviously, it could be good or bad that somebody does this. It could be, they just have an idea and it's very manipulative, and they just want to get people behind them so they can attain a certain goal or something. And then you have people who have genuinely humanitarian ideas and inventions, and they want to change the way that we treat people. Like you have like anti-slavery movements and things that start with very small populations. The majority of people, I don't know what the proportions were in different cultures, but most people probably didn't want slavery to stop because it was going to hurt economically for the short term, because they were going to have to come up with alternative ways and they have to pay the slaves or whatever. And then, you have a small group of people who make a big difference, and then eventually slavery is abolished, and it's a really big deal. And it just takes I think it takes a lot of bravery and passion for, non-conforming people to affect the rest of society in a major way. And it could be good or bad, it could be stupid, it could be stupid inventions or, that everybody gets behind or whatever, but it's an interesting thing that people go through. Societies go through, I guess.
So is that how you feel about as far as like breaking a tradition like Halloween? Do you think that it would have a benefit like that, or do you think that it's because, to me, I feel like Halloween in and of itself is a pretty just harmless. It's like one evening out of the year that people do this stuff.
I think it's not bad. It's not bad to celebrate Halloween. I think it's bad for people to put a ton of emphasis on non-important things, and I think there's an opportunity cost because people waste a lot of money and a lot of time in holiday stuff. So, ultimately, if you have the money and you want to do it and you have fun, there's nothing bad about it. It's just a fucking thing you do. But if you never question why you're doing it or what the benefits are, or you just do it because it's Halloween, like I just do it because it's Halloween, I just always celebrate Halloween, I think you're just doing it. I just always, would rather, I'd rather start with the position of why the fuck are we doing this? And a lot of kids are kind of, they're raised to think like that. They're just, they aren't like, hey, do you want to celebrate Halloween? They're just like, we're going to celebrate Halloween, wear this fucking outfit every year, and they just dress their kids up, and they dress them up every year for fucking, 10 years until the kid's just like, I just celebrate Halloween. I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah.
Why are you asking me why? You didn't do that? Oh, well, that's weird.
I always find it funny when the holidays start rolling around and people are like stressed out. They're like, oh my God, Christmas is coming up. I got to spend all this money on all these presents.
Well, a lot of people commit suicide around Christmas time.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Like, the whole expectation of the whole thing is a pretty big problem. But I think if, what it is people are kind of like, they recognize that they're missing something in their life, which is like connection. And connection is much more important than mindless social gatherings. A real connection would be like, instead of having Halloween, we sit around in small groups and turn the TVs off and talk about our lives. That would be real connection that we could have, and that would be a wonderful tradition, and then that could change and turn into bigger scope things or smaller things or whatever. But, to just come up with an excuse to go waste a bunch of money, eat a bunch of candy, drink a bunch of beer so that you can have a pretend connection with other creatures is a huge loss. It's not necessarily bad because everybody chooses to do it and they don't have to. But I think that if they really questioned it, maybe they would rethink why they're doing it. And you can't get people to demonize the thing they love, in their traditions. The thousands and thousands, millions and millions of people that go to a football game every day and dress up and cheer for their team and think for some stupid reason that they have some effect on the outcome because it's their team. It's not inherently like really bad. Like, they're not hurting anyone and they're choosing to do it. But it's definitely an opportunity that they could have been doing something much better, much more worthwhile or whatever. I'm not saying I do that. Yeah. I'm not saying like I am a fan of certain things. I waste my time playing video games and, but it's not immoral to do those things. But I think that there is a level of conscious awareness of the level at which you're not doing something. You could be doing something better, at least. I don't know. It's pretty judgmental, but at the same time, it's like that's how things get better, is you question them and you decide whether or not we should continue doing them.
Yeah, we went to a college football game like last month, and I remember sitting in the stadium, and it's just filled with like 56,000 people, I think is what the announcer said, just all dressed up and screaming and cheering, and all I could think about for part of the time I was there was, how cool would this be if this many people were this excited and rallied behind something that really mattered?
For sure.
Other than like a game where two teams fight over a ball. Like, I get that it's entertaining. I mean, like you were saying, like nobody's perfect. We all have our little things that we enjoy, but it's just, it was weird because I'm not the biggest fan of football. Like, I mean, it's kind of entertaining to watch. My wife's really into it. She's the kind of person that like makes our dog wear the team bandana, and it's like a curse on the team if she doesn't. And I'm like, what are you talking
weird
about? There's no there's no outcome. Like, the team's not magically going to do better because I'm wearing a duck shirt. But you know what? I play along. She gets it. I have a shirt. I'll wear it for the day. I don't care. But it was just weird to really be like in the environment of all these people that are rabid fans of this team. And I'm just like, Jesus, if like this many people were like this passionate about finding a cure for cancer, or like ending child abuse, or like they were helping people get food, or, like, it was just, it was really weird. It was kind of sad to think about how much energy and excitement is wasted on something so futile as a football game. But
but try convincing people of that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's really, I mean, how much money is it to get into a football game? You know, like $30 to $100 for a ticket.
Yeah, we got ours for free. Luckily.
No, I know there's lots of different ways to get it. I think it's
on
like, average, you know.
Yeah, it's anywhere
spendy.
From 30 to 100, probably based on your seating.
And that's totally fine. Entertainment is a important part of, you know, when humans have civilizations, we have we have money, excess money, because we have economic success, and we have excess time because we have economic success and plentiful, resources and all that, and so we have lots of time to do things. But there's a lot of other things that are more important to me that I would rather spend my time on, and so like, I think a lot of people don't understand that either. They don't really understand that, like, I would much rather like do a lot of other things than go to a football game and waste my money on that when I could go, do something else. And, everybody has their own little, what they think is worthwhile, and so I don't know. It would be nice if instead there were 59,000 people in an arena, and in the center of the arena was like people talking about child abuse.
Yeah.
Like, and they all paid like $25 that would be donated to a foundation to stop child abuse. And there were people in there and they're talking about it. And then when somebody makes a really good point, they're like, woo, fuck child abuse. We don't like it. And that would be a totally different world, obviously. But I don't think that's nearly as entertaining to actually focus on negative aspects of human behavior and then really admit to them. To really go, I abused my kid, I gotta stop. Nobody's gonna do that, So it's easier to do that kind of stuff than to really question.
Well, in that instance, you have to face something that's terrible and ugly, like
war.
Video games and sporting events. They're fun. They make you forget about all the shitty things going on in the world. Whereas if you held a giant stadium size thing about child abuse, as in your example, then people are like having to hear about this awful thing that's happening every second of every day. And
and they'd have to admit that they do it and that they've seen it be done and they did nothing. But
nobody wants to do that. No.
Yeah, people don't want to actually do that.
But like I said, it was just weird to be in a stadium with that. I've never been in a situation where I've been around so many people that were so passionate about something. Like if you're playing video games, it's like you and maybe a friend sitting on your couch and you're both pretty into it.
It has a different effect. For sure.
Yeah,
different cost.
Because I get that way about sometimes like at like midnight launches for games that I've been to, where you have like 200 people lined up, and it's like, man, if you guys were all like lined up and this excited to like help somebody, that'd be awesome. It's so weird to see you.
National Charity Day, where we all actually take a day to go out of our way to help anyone else. just anybody in the world. We just you just go to your neighbor and be like, hey, is there something I can do for you? And that's the holiday. That's it. They're just like, yeah, would you do my dishes? And then you just do their dishes, and you've participated in National Charity Day. Like, that'd be interesting. I'm not saying that's good necessarily. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of different things that we could focus our cultural traditions on that would be very interesting, I think.
Yeah.
And more utopian. Obviously, it would be nice if everyone just did everything I think is virtuous and good.
Everybody wants to rule the world, Joe.
I know,
So
right?
a song
Everybody wants to rule the world. I don't know.
We should start National Charity Day. We'll just do a pay it forward situation.
It's an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's almost every day of the year is a national day of something that somebody made up.
I know that there's always random holidays that I'm just like, wait, how does that get decided? Is it just like a committee of X amount of people sign a thing and they're like, oh, it's National Dog Day today?
Nothing gets decided. People just do it. They just we're going to just contact every manufacturer of calendars, and we're going to just have them print National Frog Day on March 3rd because we like frogs. And then there's awareness days, which is retarded because everyone's aware of things. Like, there's no cancer awareness. I'm not making fun of cancer in any way, but to wear a pink ribbon and call it cancer awareness, you're not accomplishing anything unless people are donating to actual cancer research.
Yeah.
Everyone's aware that cancer exists. Don't call it Cancer Awareness Day. You're not bringing awareness to it. You're asking for money. You're just wanting money.
Cancer Research Funding Day.
Yeah, that's all it is. And it's like every day a month or something. It seems like it's like breast cancer is like the most. Everyone is so fucking aware of breast cancer by now. Why isn't it being why is there no cure for it? We've known about it for so long. Scientists are very smart. There's tons of money in it. But there's no cure for breast cancer. So every year we have these awareness things. Why don't we just say
maybe it's
not curable. Maybe it's not curable.
I would just change it to, or maybe it just means we're making you aware that we still haven't found a cure for breast cancer, so we need more money. And that's why they call it breast cancer awareness.
Oh, it's awareness of our inability to fucking use this money effectively. Yeah. So it's just, and then you say anything negative like, oh, why is everybody, like, I get that they want money for cancer, but why is it, you question it, and everyone's like, what, you hate women? And it's like, no.
Boobies? Huh?
You don't like, yeah, well,
you some kind of fag.
It's more like an anti-woman thing, but when was the last time we had National Prostate Cancer Awareness, where we have like brown fucking things because it's near your pooper, and
they have the Prostate K run marathon thing that they usually
beautiful, yeah, because it's all run. I don't know how that's helpful. It's just a charity. I don't know why they're always trying to trick people into helping other people with these things. Like we have a 4K run, and you pay me $1 for every mile I run. Why don't I just give you $10 and you don't have to run for shit, or you can run on your own?
Well, I think it creates like that the sense of community that you guys are you're all together and you're running for,
and you can feel good that you ran about it. And I get that, like, people get cancer. I mean, I've had people in my life get cancer, and I've had people in my life die, and it's not good, but I don't need to go on a fucking run and tell everybody about it. You know what I mean?
It's true.
There's different ways to deal with it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I don't need to be inundated with everyone else's fucking agendas trying to get my money. Like, I get that I could give my money away if I want to. It's not
true.
You're like a fucking commercial. You're just trying to get my money. It's pretty obvious.
It is pretty commercial. I mean, it's all
a commercial.
run by companies and
just
businesses.
Yeah, it's just like, we want your fucking money. And I guess that's good, because then it's free. It's free market stuff, and that's good. You don't have to do it. Whereas you have other things like welfare that I don't have a choice with, which I find to be much more. We should having National Welfare Awareness Month, and we all learn about how the welfare state fucking works. And all the money that is wasted and used in bureaucracies and used to help people not accomplish things or something. Like let's all figure that. Let's have national how the Fed works month. Where we all watch videos on how the federal government prints money via this pseudo national bank. The national bank that's not owned by the government, but the government uses and has to use and
I just
prints
want to point
money.
out that your made-up awareness days are really not fun sounding. They don't sound entertaining. They sound
Boring.
They sound like when you walked into your health class and you saw the TV at the front of the classroom and you got all excited because you're going to watch a movie, and then the teacher was like, "Oh, we're going to watch a documentary on the circulatory system." And you're just like, fuck, that sucks. I don't want to be aware of that.
Yeah, I don't want to.
That's what your awareness days remind me of. Like, you're like, it's an awareness day for this thing. And people are like, ooh, I like awareness days. And then they find out it's about the federal government. And they're just like, poo.
We can't do anything about that. What are you trying to get us killed? What are you trying to get us dissent? We can't question the government. You're crazy. But anyway.
You can't. They might be listening to this.
Well, they're going to have a copy of it soon, so
it's true.
That's fine. I'm sure there's plenty of people talking shit about the government. They don't care. What does it matter?
I'm pretty sure there's like a few million people talking shit about the government. That's a pretty popular thing for people to complain about.
Yeah, it is. It's it's easy to complain about.
It is.
It's impossible to change, essentially. National, let's come up with ways to make things better and actually work on that day. So, anyway, I think that's a good place to stop. It's been about an hour.
We should try to talk about something positive next time. I've kind of started to realize a lot of these get very negative and
dark,
kind of dark. Yeah.
Well, last week we talked about dogs, and that was super positive.
That was
so
good.
It's good to
balancing it.
Balance it with everything I don't like.
How much holidays suck and traditions are awful. They make us conform.
Like Black Friday.
That is really that's something that should just not exist.
But it's something that everyone wants to exist. Every person who participates in a Black Friday event, including the businesses and the humans, are all interested in that level of chaotic consumerism. It's just and businesses make out like bandits. They make so much
That's
money.
why they do it.
It's like if they can just condense all the majority of people's shopping experience into one morning, then they can just make a ton of money, and that's good. That people should be making money, but I can't imagine being a person who's just like, I want to fight other moms for the right to buy a fucking Elmo doll.
But it's not just Elmo doll. It's an Elmo doll at like 80% off.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah. I don't. Is it really worth the possible death to get trampled over?
People die every
year. I know.
Year.
They die every year. That's how in 100 years when everything's different, they're going to look back and be like, the fucking Black Friday of 2015 when 25,000 people died at a Walmart in Detroit or something. They're going to talk about these things like these people were crazy people who and probably in 100 years it'll be way worse. So I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it'll be better.
Only 25,000 people died in 2015.
Yeah.
God,
man,
awesome.
It's so nice. We have wars now. It's the Black Friday war of. It takes like 3 months out of the year, and it's essentially just riots. I could see that actually happening, but anyway, so yeah, we could talk about we'll talk about other holidays and Black Friday and shit too, because that shit.
Oh
is
yeah,
crazy.
we're in the holiday season. It's gonna be hard not to talk about it.
For sure. And then we were gonna talk about the Lords of the Fallen, but I'd rather just talk about Lord.
Lord.
Yeah. I am Lord. That's a great episode. And Lord is good artist. I find some of their songs to be very enjoyable.
It's just a woman. She's 17 from New Zealand.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But she doesn't do the music. I'm guessing she has a band involved.
I didn't know anything about her until South Park.
She has a really interesting voice, and I enjoy her music. So they should have had Lord and Lords of the Fallen collaborate for the soundtrack, and then we just listen to Lord music while playing the game. Anyway, all right, let's be done.
let's be done. Wrap it up. Until next week.
Let us be done.
Let your thoughts flee.